We all want to know who built these massive cathedrals, right? We all want to know who had the knowledge before we were all born. We want to know why we're being told that they were built with hammers and chisels. Today, I think we take a step closer to finding out where this incredible knowledge of construction truly came from, where we are all aware of the massive continent that was completely left out of our mainstream textbooks, the land of Mu. So let's go even deeper. When we go back to this article from the Courier Journal from 1925, nearly 100 years ago, where it reads, according to the records from Colonel Churchward and the East Indian High Priest, the records state that some people were brought by flying machines to India from the land of Mu in the Pacific Ocean. The records say that Mu was the motherland of man. In Mu was the Garden of Eden, where they had cities, where they learned to build palaces of marble. They acquired the skill to quarry gigantic blocks of stone and to transport them long distances and to carve them into human faces. Like we saw in episode 60 in Easter Island, where the records say that the people of Mu navigated the air and had ships where they sailed to far distant lands with rich cargo. And now that we know all of this, I want to show a few things. First of all, this is showing that the technology of flight has been here before, where the Wright brothers' story, creating the first plane in the 1800s, would be a massive lie, where they have this information stored and giving it back to us slowly, as we have discussed. Secondly, they mention in the tablets that the land of Mu was in the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean has been named the Pacific Ocean for 13,000 years? Or was the land of Mu here much closer to our timeline? Or is there more land? Not the entire continent, obviously, but are there other lands, possibly bigger than Easter Island and possibly bigger than Hawaii, left over from that cataclysmic event that are still here today and simply hidden from our maps and our flight paths, where our current day planes could simply just be flying around that area, where these hidden islands could be, hidden knowledge, where our flight paths are just circling it, the Garden of Eden, the place where humans had cities, where they learned to build palaces of marble, and learning all of the construction skills that we are all asking questions about worldwide today. We are all wondering who built these cathedrals. We all know at this point that the horse and wagon community did not hire Donkeys Incorporated in the 17 and 1800s to chisel away at some stone and marble and knock out the Cologne Cathedral. We know this. We know that they didn't hit the stone with a hammer, a little harder and with a little more precision than we do today. And their work just lasts forever, and ours doesn't. It's not about effort. There's knowledge involved here. The Gloucester Cathedral, located in England, we are told was constructed by the people of the 1100s, 900 years ago. And of course, the narrative holds a major fire in the year of 1088, because the narrative knows all about the year 1088. And this is fully documented, of course. No. The interior ceiling of the Gloucester Cathedral is incredible. And I am at the point where I believe that this knowledge to construct this way, architecture that doesn't fit into our mainstream history at all, of primitive people in huts, no power tools, and zero background on their training processes all over the world. This incredible architecture and construction in every single continent may have come from this continent of Mu, where they seem to have had communication with a higher power, where we are told that this is the Garden of Eden. And it shows through the construction. We have the physical evidence that they were able to construct the massive stone heads at Easter Island. And then we have this, Nan Madol, located on an island called Micronesia, a location that is connected to the land of Mu, connected to Hawaii, and connected to Easter Island, also located in the Pacific Ocean, a once great city of man-made stone islands. The construction of the artificial islets probably started 1,300 years ago. Probably. Maybe. When in reality, in my opinion, it wasn't 1,300 years ago and was much closer to our current timeline, where they go on to say that this was built at the exact same time as the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris, where they just eyeballed it, gave it a solid, educated guess. The experts really nailed these dates, where the 12th to the 13th century seems like the winner. So it's very clear that these dates are attempts to fit this place right into their timeline of thousands of years. And what is with these maps? Throwing a layer of static right over the top of this location with a perfect 90-degree angle. It's interesting to say the least. Nan Madal has confused the mainstream narrative, and they simply don't understand how to fit this place in, where this location holds construction of megalithic architecture, where the so-called experts cannot explain it, where they say little can be verified about the megalithic construction, where we already know at this point that this land was connected to the continent of Mu, where they were given the knowledge to build palaces of marble. They learned to quarry gigantic blocks of stone and learned how to transport them long distances, and also learned how to carve stone, where we are told that they built huge stone buildings. And then they show us these depictions of it in the mainstream history, like it was actually constructed in the water, like this. When we know that it was built on land, built on the continent of Mu, it wasn't originally in the water like this. In legend, we are told that the builders lifted the huge stones with the aid of a flying dragon. So we definitely have something very interesting going on here in the Pacific Ocean, where Colonel Churchward claimed that the civilization of Mu was technologically more advanced than we are today. And is this not exactly what we're saying today? A civilization that was here before us, that we are not being told about in our mainstream history classes, that was much more advanced, with so much more technology than we have today, where we are being given all of this technology back slowly after 1776, where Columbus didn't discover anything and was a fictional character in my opinion, when the previous civilization before us didn't know of less land than we do today. Instead, they knew about more land than we do today. It's a complete opposite, where Churchward goes on to say that this advanced civilization, this group in Mu, was known as the Nakals. The dates and the years are all over the place, and it's the one thing that's impossible to translate. This is in my opinion, but this is because the year 2024 is not really the true year. I think the calendar that we use today is fabricated to completely confuse us. And the further you get away from the creation date, the further you get away from the creator. I'm not entirely sure which year we are really in. And this is why it's impossible for James Churchward to know how long ago the continent of Mu was really here. I don't believe it was thousands of years ago, like I've said before. He also goes on to say the ancient civilizations of India, which would explain why these tablets would be in an Indian temple. Babylon, Persia, Egypt, and the Mayans were built by the people of Mu. And if there was one place in the world that would be hidden from our maps today, one specific location that holds all of this technology, flying crafts, marble structures, everything, who's to say that the group of people that found this location, or the remains that were at this location and are in control today, who's to say that this group wouldn't hide this location that is the stem of all information from all of us? Is it just a coincidence that the Pacific Ocean is basically empty on our map that we are shown? And don't forget that being in control of the map is a key part of the game. What if we are playing the game with a false map? Is it possible that a part of this incredible land of Mu is still here? Is it possible that the Garden of Eden is hidden to us? Is this why we have no idea where we are, or what we're doing here, or why we're finding massive structures that make no sense in our timeline? Hiding massive continents, hiding technology, giving us a false history, giving us a false map. Is this why we are distracted with Egypt, where they tell us to look to Egypt and the pyramids, while the real location is over in the Pacific Ocean, where Churchward claimed that the ancient Egyptian sun god Ra originated with the Mu, where Ra was the word which the Nakals used for sun, as well as for their god and rulers. Now, again, this is all information that we can hold on to for the future while we go further into this research. Finding a continent that's conveniently no longer on our map, where they were able to construct massive structures, had incredible technology, and would explain the pyramids in Egypt, is something that I cannot keep to myself. Churchward had two major critics, and neither of them actually ever read the tablets that Churchward did at the Indian temple, where we have Curtis Wilgus, a historian who taught at George Washington University, where he organized and directed the Center for Latin American Affairs and also organized the school's annual Caribbean conferences. So this guy was locked in and knew all about these tablets, where the Caribbean conference organizer guy tells everybody that Churchward's research was the strangest of fiction. It was pure imagination, based on everything that he learned over at the annual Caribbean conferences. And that's exactly how Curtis aced his college exams, by asking 0 questions and receiving 3 mainstream college history degrees, 3 of them. So we have a very open-minded individual in Curtis. Now, who is this other critic? Engineer and writer L. Sprague de Camp, where he simply dismissed the idea of the Nicole in an article in 1946. Just dismissed it. De Camp spent 10 years attending Snyder School in North Carolina, in a military-style institution where his parents were heavy-handed disciplinarians to cure him of intellectual arrogance. All right, so we have 2 critics that spent their entire life being told what to think, and they were very good at it. And those were Churchward's critics, people that were never there, people that never spent the time in India at the temple, and had 0 proof that Churchward was incorrect. By simply just saying that Churchward's work is insane or mythical does not prove anything. It proves that their minds are so manipulated to the point that they can't ask any questions and can't let go of the lies that they've been told. By admitting that Churchward's work is a possibility, it would mean that these 2 individuals would have to agree that all of their time spent learning one way of thinking and feeling like they knew more than everybody else about human history, everything that they thought was the truth, may have been a waste of time. And for some people, this is extremely difficult, and I can't fully blame them. But at the same time, they need to start asking some questions, and not towards us. We owe them nothing. We have taken a total of $0 from them. We are simply asking questions about our past. These questions should be directed towards the people, the institutions that have taken thousands of dollars from them. We are simply trying to find the truth at all costs. If a massive continent of Mu is truly out there, or even parts of it, hidden within the information that is provided, a place with marble structures and hidden technology, a hidden past, and possibly an explanation as to why these massive structures all over the world, in all of our cities, and possibly the location of the Garden of Eden. I want to know about it. Now that we know that there are basically 0 critics of James Churchward's work, and we have records from 1925 that James Churchward learned more than just hidden history. He also learned, in my opinion, hidden technology from the previous civilization, where James Churchward owned over 100 patents. Now, I want to go even deeper. James was a soldier. He was stationed in India, where he became close friends with an elderly monk from a nearby temple, where these documents were in a secret archive in the temple. The priest or monk taught Churchward the language called Nicole, by which the tablets were written. And we know that according to Churchward's work, these were the people that lived in the continent of Mu. And the part that I find interesting is that the location of where James was stationed, the location of where this temple is located, is wiped out from our database. The fact that we cannot look up where he was based, hiding his location as colonel, proves to me that they want this information gone and hidden. As if the British government doesn't know or has lost the records of where they stationed one of their soldiers. He was stationed in India for decades, and this location of this temple is now hidden from us. Finding a continent in the middle of the Pacific Ocean was not a part of the plan. I believe that James Churchward messed up the mainstream narrative when he spoke to that elder. Having an advanced civilization that was here before us does not at all fit into the narrative that we created the first plane, the first train, the first car, the first phone, TV, the light bulb, and the rest. All in the 1800s. It would make sense that all of our worldwide technological information would all stem from the Garden of Eden, or in other words, the beginning place. A branch off to Egypt, India, Mexico, Asia, and the rest of the world. Having an advanced civilization that was here before us does not fit into the narrative that today we have the best construction processes. And it honestly disproves the evolution theory. It shows that we are not evolving and advancing. We are simply growing as we are allowed to grow. We are as advanced as we are allowed to be. And this is what James Churchward proved. And this is when this article clears up a lot for us. When James did not go to India with the intentions of learning any of this information. He was stationed in India and was in charge of the old priest. James was in charge of the priest. This was his role. This priest was one of the three most highly learned priests of India. Secretly stored in the archives of the temple were hundreds of clay tablets. The old rishi or priest became highly attached to James Churchward and taught him the key to the ancient alphabet. So this priest or rishi taught James this information and then showed him secret tablets. And then we actually have these massive heads at Easter Island. We actually have the structures at Nan Madol. We have physical proof that backs James Churchward's narrative up. You can physically go there and see it for yourself. So the location of this temple in India, where James was based for years, is wiped out from our knowledge. But we all know that if there is a temple out there in India with hundreds of hidden tablets that hold incredible knowledge, then there most likely is more than one. Who else has hidden knowledge that holds our true history, just waiting for us all to find it? Are you ready to see massive pyramids in China? Pyramids that were built by the previous civilization and are now just being called hills. Are you ready to uncover something massive today? Here we go. We have been taught that the pyramids in Egypt were very rare. These pyramids in Egypt were an anomaly. We have found that there's a pyramid right outside of St. Louis that has a temple 2 feet under its base. We have found that there is so much underneath the ground, including catacombs and tunnel systems, that is yet to be exposed. And now today, we are finding that people have just been living in a town called Anlong, located in China, with possibly hundreds of pyramids sitting all around them for all this time. In an article published on May 15th, 2024 by English.news.cn, titled Pyramid-Shaped Hills Become Popular Tourist Site in Southwest China. The article starts off saying that we are looking at several hills that resemble the pyramids of Egypt in a suburb county in China, when it goes on to say that the hills are made of parallel layers of stone, where we know that these are no longer hills. We don't need the experts' help. We've got this one covered. Parallel layered stone walls. When you can see that there is not just one, we are dealing with something massive, uncovering something that would completely change everything about what we have been told. I've told you all that we're just getting started, and that is because all of our eyes are now open. We are seeing it all now. Everything that was just hiding right in front of all of our faces, somehow, right in our towns, will now be brought to light. 99% of us were under some sort of trance. For some reason, we were all unable to see these types of things all over the world. Buildings that don't belong in our timeline at all. Walking or driving right past them every single day. But now that we have the knowledge, we can now see what is right in front of us. And the trick no longer works, which is why everyone in the world now needs to see this information so that they don't live in a town with hundreds of pyramids right next to their local coffee shop and think that old world pyramids are just hills, like we've all been told. At this point in time, I feel like we are being shown the truth. At no other point in our timeline has this information, the truth, been flying at us at this speed. When we are finished, no pyramid will be unexplored. Nobody is going to think that these are just hills. We all understand that if we were just told that these were pyramids and not hills, that it would show that the mainstream history that we've all been told is not the full picture. In fact, it would show that the narrative is possibly 100% fabricated or very close to it, showing that they've been saying that pyramids have been hills for so long, and now changing their mind would let doubt creep in, and people would start asking questions like we are today as to what else could be a pyramid. What other hill just has a temple laying underneath it? This is exactly what we're asking. This would all show that the mainstream did not include the previous civilization into their narrative. A civilization that built all of the pyramids, all of the buildings. They had incredible technology, and they were not here as far back as we all thought. A civilization that was capable of constructing not just one pyramid, but hundreds of pyramids all over the world. And that tools have been here, advanced technology and the rest. This lie would be completely exposed. Now, as you can see, something happened and is now triggering the release of this information. All of these articles, all of these companies are now writing about these hills that have supposedly been there the entire time. Why now? Have they always been there? Of course they have. We have all just gone from VCR straight to 4K, a shift in consciousness, or you can call it an upgrade, now allowing us to see things that are in this realm that we all live, which means that these now need to be explained now that we can see them, which is exactly what they're doing. Where in an article written by the Global Times, they don't even give us a person. They just tell us that the Chinese media outlet, Eyes News, they found their guy, a professor that would back their story up, saying that the mountains were, of course, natural happenings, which is why they have their pyramid-like shape. When he was asked, why do these natural happenings have parallel layered stone? He replied that they date back 200 million years to the early to the middle Triassic ages. Pinning this date down, 200 million years. Right. 200 million years ago, the early to the middle Triassic ages. This guy is just amazing. So the professor is just on it. He is the guy that should be fully trusted. Pinning this date down in his dreams. Where does he even come up with a number like this? 200 million years ago. Why didn't he just say 150 million years ago? Why not 800 million years ago while you're at it? I'm going to be very clear. This so-called professor has zero clue about what happened 200 million years ago. In fact, we don't even know if there was a 200 million years ago. It's very possible that never happened. These articles, these dates, are not fooling anyone anymore. Just throwing nonsense out there, pretending to know all about the year -200,000,001 or -200,000,002. It's ridiculous. All because we asked a professor who studied their books. This is no longer classified as factual information. If it looks like a pyramid, it has parallel stones laid over and over and over, exactly like we have seen in Egypt, then we will start at that conclusion and work from there. We are not going to research from the standpoint of guessing about 200 million years ago. From that point of view, you will find nothing. You will go to sleep, wake up, look at the pyramid and think it's all because a T-Rex decided to take a crap there and think it's a hill, exactly like they like it. And to show that we are all just getting started, staying in China, and a documented U.S. Air Force pilot's account of what he saw in 1945, saying that he was flying between India and China when he saw a pyramid that would put Gizas to shame. Pure white on all sides. And then 2 years later, Colonel Maurice reports the exact same experience. And the New York Times runs his story. This tells me that China has some pyramids that we definitely haven't been told about. And we need to investigate further. So these accounts, we now know, took place in a province of northwestern China, where we know that they have nearly 40 known pyramids in this location, where they're covered with trees and grass. So what is this group hiding from us? Why cover up hundreds of pyramids and tell us they are just dirt from 200 million years ago? Why do this? again, it would change everything. It would show us that there was an extremely advanced civilization that was here very close to our timeline, most likely wiped out by an event. And they were able to construct pyramids all over the world, over and over and over, which is why they have to call them hills, because this would blow 99% of people's minds today. Are these naturally forming? Do you need the professor's help? I don't think you do. I personally think that people used to like that comfort of thinking that the professors could figure it all out. Where that's all changed now. We no longer need somebody's help, someone that has read all of their indoctrinated books and has sat up nicely in their seat in the front row. We don't need this guy to tell us about 200 million years ago. We definitely don't need that type of thought process anymore. We understand that there is a much more likely possibility sitting on the table of how all of these structures all over the world were created and why they are here today. Places that you can go and see all for yourself. You can go inside most of them. Basilicas, cathedrals, temples, caves, or melted structures. And of course, pyramids. It's incredible all over the world. And it's not because a little rain came down and splashed the dirt off the ground and created a perfect pyramid. There isn't a single naturally forming pyramid in the whole world. Nature doesn't form 90-degree angles. It does not form pyramids that have perfect parallel stonework. We all understand this now. We are seeing right through the nonsense. And it no longer takes us all months to process this. Thousands of us. We get it now right when we see it. We are told that the Chinese pyramids of that region are built of mud and dirt and are more like mounds than the Pyramid of Egypt. This was reported by the Science newsletter in 1947. But of course, the region is little traveled. So let me know in the comments if you think these things are really made of mud and dirt, or if they are just covered by it and something massive is hiding underneath. When Western archaeologists have, to this day, rarely been permitted to investigate the sites, overgrown by shrubs and abandoned at first glance, going on to say that the shrubs are clearly deliberately planted. Planting many cypress, one of the fastest growing trees out there, hiding this right in front of our faces for years. Until now. Now I'm going to go to Google Earth. I'm going to show you that you can't even drop the guy down and look at these places. Right outside of the city, we have multiple pyramids right here, covered by trees, unexplained by the mainstream narrative. These are pyramids of the previous civilization, in my opinion, that are still here today. We have another one over here, all around the same city. We're not traveling thousands of miles, just like we saw in Anlong to start this episode off. They're all over the place. Here's another one. And then we have this one over to the left and another one over here to the right. We have two more over here. So are you understanding how the narrative has been manipulated? How it's not just information that has been suppressed. It's also massive pyramids. And then we have these two, where if we change the angle here, you can see that there is a circle here that seems to have significance, leading straight to this pyramid, where it has the crosshairs right here, with a bunch of trees to try to cover it up. It's very strange. And you can even see the door opening that was once here, or possibly still is. And you can see how close it is to the other pyramids. I've got a question. Why does this massive pyramid not have a name or a story? Giving this pyramid a name or a story would change everything. It would be an admission that what we have been told is a massive lie. They would have to explain why they've been covering this thing up with trees and dirt. Could you imagine living here? These people live here next to two pyramids, and the pyramids have no name and no story. Just a bunch of trees and dirt covering them up. No, those aren't pyramids. Those are just dirt mounds, of course. And everybody agrees, all because a professor went to his room one night and said, it's from 200 million years ago. This is insane. So I want to go back to Anlong, China, where we have cave openings. We've seen that cave openings are, in my opinion, just front entrances to a bigger overall structure. We have this ridiculous name, where we have seen them name things like this and mock us all over the world. So we have this cave, and then we have this cave over here. Again, these are entrances to the pyramid that we have shown at the beginning of this episode. We are not allowed to drop this guy down on Google Earth, which should be very telling, not allowing us to see what's going on there. There are 0 articles about these places. We are simply being blocked off from our true past. So we remember that the professor said that these were naturally forming hills from 200 million years ago. Well, we know that they are stone, and we know that they have caves. And to show that there are so many structures that need to be explored, structures that are brushed off as hills from millions of years ago, accidentally brushed into by a rhinoceros from millions of years ago, not just in China, but all over the world. We can go to Utah, USA, more specifically, Wayne County, where we are told that there is a pyramid that was formed during the Jurassic period. So, if they find a pyramid, they chalk it up to the dinosaurs. Can you believe this? Or they just cover it up with trees and dirt and pretend like it's not even there at all. And don't say anything about it and act like we shouldn't see it either. But if they find a cave in India while on a tiger hunt, like we just saw in episode 73, then they can pin an exact date on it somehow and explain the whole thing away. We are told that this thing is composed of sandstone that formed 180 million years ago, give or take a few hours. They took samples home and tested it. Just trust them. They know all about the year negative 180 million. In fact, they know all about the year negative 181 million as well. It is pretty cool being a certified scholar. You just get to make up any date you'd like. 180 million years ago, on the dot. Amazing. These experts help us a lot, telling us that because it's in a hot, dry climate for the last 180 million years. So we have steady climates for 180 million years. Nice to know for those that are in Utah. You can enjoy that climate for years to come. So 180 million years of hot, dry climate. Wind blowing over sand dunes, creating large sweeping crossbeds, dating all the way back to the Jurassic ages. Wow. Incredible how they know all of this. I think the local spider was documenting all this and hid it underneath some of the sand. It's incredible. Long after the sedimentary rocks were deposited, the Colorado Plateau was uplifted relatively even. It's just amazing. Keeping the layers roughly horizontal. They have all of this on camera. It's documented in the Colorado Scrolls. No, it's not. But the Capitol Reef was an exception, of course, because of the water pocket fold, which formed between 50 and 70 million years ago. You know, somewhere between then, give or take. Not 40 million and not 80 million. A much more obvious answer to this is that it is a structure that 100% looks melted. It is not from 70 million years ago. It is from the previous civilization, with an elevation of 6,211 feet. This was a massive structure that proves how incredible this previous civilization really was. And right next to this structure, we have an arch. It's called the Cassidy Arch, that the mainstream will tell you that the local Bronchiosaurus used as a hangout spot, running away from the T-Rex, where they know that the Bronchiosaurus was a peaceful animal. They were there and know all about the year negative 150 million. No, they don't. Not even close. Now, we have some incredible pictures of this place. Is this not a tree that is now turned into stone? It's just incredible. You can see that an event took place and has completely melted this place. And you can see just how big things were before. We have some other angles of this melted palace. And then we have this shot. You can see that the front of this place was cut perfectly. This is not natural at all. Perfect 90-degree angles and arches into stone. is not a natural occurrence, especially when right next to this melted structure, right next to Cassidy Arch, we have Hickman Natural Bridge, where they're telling us that nature just forms stone bridges now too. They're telling us nature forms pyramids, arches, and bridges, all here accidentally during the Jurassic period. This is what we have been told. Can you believe this? I really hope you all can see after this how crazy the narrative is. We have more perfectly formed arches that they just haven't got around to naming yet. Clearly an opening to another structure right here. And if this picture doesn't get you, then I'm not sure what will. In my opinion, this is clearly a structure from the old world that was built and has since been melted. This was not from sandstone blowing in the wind 150 million years ago. It's not even close to that. There are so many of these arches. This place must have been incredible. This is the complete opposite of naturally forming. We have these structures with even more arches over here. You can see how big they are too, compared to the people standing below. And up here, they look like they used to be windows. This is definitely a place I'd love to visit and see if there are any openings with a few more photos to show that this is not naturally forming, to show that this place has a much deeper history, a much more meaningful history than what we have all been told, where we are all here to learn and grow, and we are no longer being held back from doing that. We are finding more and more evidence every single week that our true past is so much more exciting and entertaining than what we have been told and what we have been shown in our classrooms. We are seeing structures that have arches, windows, doorways, bridges, pyramids that have been hiding under trees and still are. But they are now being discovered by thousands of people. Locations named Cathedral Valley. Are we being told what these structures used to be? Are these melted cathedrals? We all know that restoration really means destruction. Welcome to Portland, Maine, where we are given the United States Custom House, a structure that we are told was completed in just 5 years. And of course, would have gone a lot faster if it wasn't for all the delays in obtaining the granite for the upper stories. It's incredible. Where the need for the new custom house. Wait, a new one? What is this? The fire destroyed the exchange building, which had previously housed the customs office, post office, and courts, as well as 1,800 other buildings in the center of the city, all gone to this fire. Now, with 1,800 buildings gone in flames, where some of them were stone, where we all know that stone is not flammable, we get this interesting article in the Portland Herald, where there is confusion about the death toll. Of course there is. On July 10th, 6 days after the fire, they report that 3 intoxicated men burned and didn't make it, which was one of the first buildings to burn down. However, it's also reported only 1 person didn't make it, where you can read the ridiculous story here. I'm not buying that one at all. You can catch a lady, but not a baby. It's ridiculous. Where the final number finally comes out, where on July 14th, the news reported there was no loss of life, where none of the reports were authenticated. We've seen this before in episode 59, where these great fires can destroy cities, making them look like bombs went off on stone buildings all over the world, in nearly every single city. Yet everybody was just fine, and nobody had an issue getting away from this fire that exploded stone buildings. Not a single stone wall fell on anybody. Everybody just hopped on their horse and ran off into the sunset. So 1,800 buildings are gone, including the exchange building. That looks like a palace in itself. If this was one of the 1,800 buildings destroyed, could you even imagine what this city looked like. No power tools, riding around on horses and wagons. They were just all living in palaces, throwing another column in there just for fun. And every time I see this picture of the Exchange Building, it just looks like they put a new filter on it on Instagram to make it look like it's from back in the day. We are told that the Exchange Building was constructed between 1835 and 1839. 4 years. Remember, this is 56 years before they had a power tool. And this is where every single person should see that they are being told a massive lie. Knowing what we know about all of the historical patterns, get ready. Here we go. July 4th, 1866 was the end of this building, where it was burned down by a fire that destroyed the entire city. 1,800 buildings, spreading from stone building to stone building, column after column, where after being in use for 15 years, this building burned down on January 8th, 1854, where demolition was the only alternative. Between 1854 and 1965, 2 more federal buildings occupied this exact same site. Multiple buildings, yet again, multiple fires. A total and complete mess of the narrative. Patterns that we've seen all over the world, not giving us any information about how these buildings were just thrown together and knocked out over and over on the same site with ease. The ones that remain are incredible. Go inside one of them. They are not something that was just built by a few guys on their donkey. They were clearly built with perfection. So let's go deeper and investigate this man, this character that we were all given, Richard Bond, where he is pinned to the North Congressional Church from 1836, a church that is beating our churches today, just barely, with those nice vanilla skies. And the sky wipeout didn't work that well. As you can see, the tree is all messed up. So they just knocked this one down. They just didn't need that one anymore. 4 years later, he knocked out another church in Boston, where in 1912, they were just using it to repair people's shoes. They had so many buildings from the previous civilization, all just sitting around, that they could just turn it into whatever they want, or just knock it down, just like they did with this one as well. So Richard Bond is just knocking out castle churches and Greek Revival public buildings. He was born in 1798. He was son of a farmer. Remember that. He just establishes himself as a carpenter. And then next thing you know, out of nowhere, he is now an architect. Which school did he go to? Who trained him? None of this would be an issue for Richard. He would join forces with Isaiah Rogers and form Rogers and Bond, where you're never gonna guess what Rogers' dad did. This guy was also a farmer. Everyone was just either a farmer or a master architect in the 1800s. There's no in between. And if you're a farmer, your kid is destined to be a master architect. This is incredible. And we've all seen the Hannaford and Sons. And they're now mixing narratives here with his wife named Hannah Ford. Hannaford and Sons. The AI name generator has obviously ran out of names. Very odd. So Rogers and Bond, this firm, only lasted until the following year, of course, when Rogers left for Boston. So Bond, with all of his training from nobody, went on to work alone until 1850, where he would go on to construct palace after palace after palace, where nearly every single one of them were demolished. After all of the fires, after all of the nonsense we are told, this is what is here on that site today, where I believe that this building has always been here and survived all the destruction and the rest. You can even see that it is partially buried into the ground. I believe these steps, they were never there. And this is our civilization adding that in. The front door to this place is lower and was possibly buried and is now in the so-called basement, where the basement was originally the first floor. And this has now changed. We've seen this all over the world, over and over, where the front door is always lower and is now possibly buried. And here is where things get very weird. Remember, we have Bond and Rogers, friends, teaming up for a year. Well, now we have the architect of this place being Alfred B. Mullet. And guess who this guy was also partners with? There it is, Isaiah Rogers. And Mullet's supposed works are insane. From 1861 to 1872, 11 years, that's it. He knocked out 17 palaces in 11 years, if you can believe that. This is before the power tool. Now I'm gonna ask again, how are we to believe that every single architect in the world, every single builder was perfect? Over and over, they were perfect. There was never a mistake, and these buildings are incredible today. We can all see them. They're not something that we're making up. These places, you can actually go inside of them. And there was never a mistake. And these people could supposedly build palaces in 1 to 2 years, over and over and over. 11 years, and he knocked out 17 palaces. And we never questioned this before. Well, that's all changing now. I know that our current civilization, with power tools, with computers, with all the technology, all the training, everything, we do not knock out 17 palaces in 11 years today. We don't do that. And I know we cannot do that without power tools. And we have had a lot of people confirm this. We know this. Without power tools, our civilization could never do this. Yet they did it all the time, 200 years ago. So something is off about this narrative, and we know this. So let's go further. Was this just the post office guy? Where 15 of his buildings were post offices. Did the Treasury Department, did they own this guy? Or did they create this character? Did they make him up? Where this post office in New York was designed by the office of the supervising architect of the Treasury Department under Alfred B. Mullet. Has anyone ever heard of a 27-year-old master architect? I think we've shown one before in the past, about 60 episodes ago, where he was knocking out castle prisons. If you missed it, today's your lucky day. Alfred B. Mullet was born in 1834 in England, where his dad bought 80 acres and enrolled at Farmers College. I have to be honest, I laughed when I saw that one. Incredible, 3 for 3 today. They had to just get the farming part into the narrative somehow. This narrative is 100% AI generated in my opinion, without a doubt. It repeats itself over and over. And if you didn't understand what to look for, you would never find anything. But now that we know exactly what to look for, we find it all the time. Especially in the 1900s, when our civilization wasn't introduced to the AI yet. We didn't even know that was a thing. But now we do. So we find it very easily. It's all right here for us, right on your computer. You don't have to go to the library and dig through thousands of books anymore. Born in 1834, and his first project started and completed in 1861. And this story is insane. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it says that on March 10th, 1861, they got the land from Allen. Alfred's first project was approved. And just 16 days later, the foundation was finished with the laying of the cornerstone, where I know it now. I've mentioned this a few times, but we have this 100% pinned down now. We are exposing this right now, in real time. Are you ready? The stone is larger than the rest and is hollowed out to allow a box of mementos, where it was opened up in 1961 and the documents were already gone. So a new container was put into the stone. A new container put into the cornerstone, where we now know what is going on here. We know that the previous civilization put valuable items inside these cornerstones all over the world, just like we showed in our 1-hour special, episode 77, where they just couldn't remember where the cornerstone was to the St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City. They had 100,000 people there to watch, and then nobody could remember where it was. We know that they know exactly where it was. They never forgot, they simply went and removed it. And this is so clear now. The cornerstones hold incredible information, possibly the details on how the building was constructed, or materials inside. There's something inside these cornerstones, and we called it right here on this channel. Unbelievable. Especially when we drive this point home and show the world that we are correct. And we take a look at the US Capitol building, where in 1991, a search for the Capitol cornerstone was conducted. Remember, we are told that this building was constructed in 1793. We are at the point in our research where we understand that they are not going to wait 198 years to go look for a cornerstone for the first time. And if they really did build it, they wouldn't have forgot where it went. This right here is 100% evidence, in my opinion, that our civilization are the finders or the founders of these structures. They did not construct these buildings. They would know where the cornerstone is without a doubt. A search for the Capitol's cornerstone was conducted, including use of metal detectors. Metal detectors for stone? The cornerstone. Are you able to see very clearly now? To locate the engraved plate. It was, of course, never found, so we are told. Where we know that they located it and found whatever was inside from the previous civilization. These cornerstones hold something incredible inside them. And today, we have taken our research a massive step forward, where we all now know this information as well. Now, after getting done with Mullet's church, all in my opinion, of course, but my guess, after everything that we've seen, everything that we have shown, is that this Mullet guy is a character and is most likely not a real person at this point. So let's go even deeper and expose even more to the world. He then went on to knock out the Carson City Mint, located in Nevada, where I'm thankful to report that this one is still standing today. But again, you can see that this building is bigger than we can see. The windows are going underground level, where the narrative is slipping up now. They can't even keep their own story straight. We know that Alfred B. Mullet already designed a building before this one in 1861. We just covered it, but now they are stumbling and on the ropes. The building that housed the Mint was the first designed by Alfred B. Mullet, where we know that that is not true. A book of lies. We are exposing it all, week after week. I appreciate every one of you, such as the fire at the Tremont Neighborhood Church on May 28th, 2024. We are all seeing it happen live, sharing it with each other, and hopefully one day, the more people that are watching, the harder it will be for fires to destroy these incredible buildings. We are also over on X, Rumble, TikTok, Spotify, and Instagram. Now, I enjoy sharing these buildings and sharing their narratives, proving that they are from the previous civilization that was not here as far back as we all thought. I enjoy sharing the ones that are still here today, so that if you're in the area, you can go and see them for yourself. Incredible places that have been hiding right in front of our faces for so many years. Because so many times we see where they are demolished, just like we see with this supposed post office that Mullet is also pinned to, where they called this thing Mullet's Monstrosity, built in 1880, we are told, and it was not received well. They didn't like this, if you can believe it. So they knocked it down in 1939. So I'm not sure who wouldn't like this, but I definitely wouldn't mind one or even two of these in my town today. Where at the bottom here, they say, with the passing of time and changing of taste, this is now one of Mallet's best works, if you can believe it. So, clear destruction of the past, saying they don't like it, so they knock it down, and then switch their mind after it's gone. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, something that is still here today that you can go and see was this one, the Eisenhower Executive Office Building, located in Washington, D.C., designed by our guy, Mr. Mullet, where it was generally regarded with scorn and disdain, where Twain referred to this building as the ugliest building in America, and the president calling it the greatest monstrosity in America. with the incredible historians calling it Mullet's Architectural Infant Asylum. Well, he resigned and then committed suicide just 2 years after this building was supposedly completed, also saying that this was the ugliest building in America. It's just our point here. Every single building, all the other ones were better than this one? Nothing was worse? Really? I mean, I know for sure I can find like 3 buildings right down the road that look worse than this one. Imagine, in all of America, saying that nothing was worse than this. I'm so glad to say that it's still here today, where it does hold the fire narrative. Once on Christmas Eve in 1929, and again, December 19th, almost Christmas Eve, 2007. When it nears Christmas time, stay away from that building. The main office was destroyed in 1987, and shortly after, 2001, you know the date. I'm not gonna say it on this channel ever again. And we all know why. The 17th Street side of the building was randomly vacated and then destroyed. It also survived the 1957 demolition project. Here are some other buildings pinned to this guy's name, a very interesting character that needed to be shown to the world today. During a time period without power tools, able to construct so many buildings that would blow our minds today, that if they were built in any of our towns, I think a lot of us would be happy about it. Building them in so many states, all during the same time period, where this guy must have been riding around on Seabiscuit and wasting zero time, riding the heck out of that horse to get to his next destination, over and over. Palaces in Boston, palaces in New York, hitting 21 states in his career. Ohio, Nevada, Wisconsin, Maine, California, Oregon, South Carolina, Washington, D.C., Louisiana, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Michigan, and Connecticut. 21 states, never an issue. And we know that these stories are just that. They are stories, all to hide what we know. And that is that there was a previous civilization here. And these are their buildings. And this Kentucky Derby winner didn't build them. He was the man pinned as the guy. Where him and his friends' dads were out busy farming, while he was at Farming University, where his master work just wasn't fitting the style of the times. When Abe Lincoln was born in a shed, and Abe's mom was just complaining about the palaces getting thrown together in a year or two. All over the country, where she demanded that it was time to switch to the incredible basic box style that we all see today. Get those boxes done, and I want them done slow. And before we close this thing off, I want to show you 2 clips of people excavating sites. This one in Iran, where they were digging to put a pool in, and instead uncovered the old world, showing even more evidence that where we live today and what we think is the ground is really the ceiling. And there is so much more under our feet, so much more to our history than what we have been told. We are uncovering it all, 1 week at a time, gathering more and more people to share information and inform the world. And we are all just getting started.